It was a decision no one saw coming, not his executives, not the employees on the production floor, and certainly not the wider world. Elon Musk, the enigmatic force behind Tesla, stood in front of his mirror one morning staring at his reflection. His casual demeanor and hoodie were swapped for something far more mundane, the uniform of a Tesla assembly worker, with safety goggles perched awkwardly on his nose and a lunchbox in hand. He practiced the one thing he rarely needed to do: blend in. The idea came during a late-night brainstorming session. Reports from the factory floor had been trickling in, filled with complaints about long hours, unexplained delays, and unspoken frustrations. For a man obsessed with precision and progress, these inefficiencies gnawed at him. Elon's usual solution, a flurry of meetings and commands from the top, felt inadequate. If he wanted the truth, he needed to experience it firsthand. "I need to know what they see, what they feel," he muttered to himself as he pulled on steel-toed boots. He could hear his assistants debating the logistics in the other room, the security risks, the press exposure, but none of it mattered. This wasn't about image or publicity, it was about understanding. Slipping into the crowd that morning was easier than he expected. The Tesla Gigafactory in Sparks, Nevada buzzed with activity as hundreds of workers filed in. Elon felt a pang of guilt watching the routine unfold, the exhaustion etched on some faces, the easy camaraderie on others. Nobody gave him a second glance as he joined a line heading toward the main floor. Inside, the energy was palpable, a cacophony of machinery and human effort. Conveyor belts hummed along, robotic arms pivoted with mechanical precision, and workers darted between stations, their movements rehearsed yet relentless. Elon took it all in, wondering how many stories, struggles, and triumphs were hidden within these walls. His cover story was simple: Dan, a mid-career technician transferring from a smaller plant. With a little coaching and a lot of caution, he managed to keep his real identity concealed as he moved toward his assigned station. His heart raced not from fear, but from excitement. For the first time in years, Elon Musk was just another cog in the machine. "All right, Dan," barked his supervisor, a wiry man with a sharp gaze named Todd. "We don't have time for slow starts. Get over here and shadow Eric. He'll show you the ropes." Eric, a wiry, energetic man in his 30s, gave Elon a brisk nod. "New guy, huh? Hope you're ready. This isn't exactly a cakewalk." His tone wasn't harsh, but it wasn't welcoming either. It was the tone of someone who'd seen too many new hires come and go. Elon smiled. "I'll do my best." As the hours ticked by, Elon found himself immersed in a world he'd only seen from the boardroom. The tasks were physically demanding, requiring focus and speed. Sweat trickled down his brow as he adjusted bolts and tightened screws, each movement scrutinized by Eric, who had little patience for mistakes. By the time the shift ended, Elon's hands were sore and his legs felt like jelly. But more than the physical strain, it was the stories he overheard that stayed with him. A single mother working overtime to cover her rent, a young man saving up to return to school, a veteran quietly coping with old injuries. This was Tesla's heart, the people who brought his visions to life, and they were far more than just statistics on a quarterly report. But Elon wasn't there just to observe. He was there to learn. As the second day began, the cracks in Tesla's seamless facade started to show. The morning air was heavy with anticipation as Elon stepped onto the factory floor for his second day. The initial novelty of his undercover mission had given way to a stark reality. The work was grueling and the pace relentless. But this was what he'd come for, to live the experience his employees faced every day. Eric wasted no time putting him to work. "You're on the assembly line today," he said, handing Elon a pair of gloves. "It's simple. Bolts on the chassis, one every 3 seconds. No time for hesitation." The line moved faster than Elon had anticipated, a blur of metal in motion. At first, he fumbled the bolts, slipping through his fingers as the conveyor belt dragged the chassis out of reach. His mistakes didn't go unnoticed. "Pick it up, Dan," shouted Eric from across the line. "You're holding us all back." It wasn't just the physical demands that surprised him. It was the culture. Conversations buzzed around him, snippets of frustration mixed with humor. "Did you hear about the new software update? It's messing with the robots again," a worker muttered nearby. "Yeah, and guess who's staying late to fix it?" another replied with a dry laugh. By lunchtime, Elon's muscles ached, but his ears had caught more than he expected. Workers shared stories of inconsistent scheduling, faulty equipment that slowed production, and a constant pressure to hit quotas no matter the cost. Beneath the camaraderie lay a quiet frustration, one that no glossy corporate report could capture. Elon sat alone in the break room, observing the chatter around him. A group of workers huddled by the vending machines, discussing a recent accident on the floor. "Third one this month," one said grimly. "If they don't fix that lift soon, someone's going to get seriously hurt." The word struck a chord as Elon sipped his coffee. He realized that the factory's issues weren't just about productivity, they were about people. The stakes were higher than he'd imagined. Later that day, he witnessed his first major malfunction. One of the robotic arms on the line sputtered and froze, bringing production to a screeching halt. Alarms blared as supervisors rushed to contain the chaos. Eric cursed under his breath, grabbing a toolkit. "This thing's been acting up for weeks," he grumbled, "but fixing it properly takes time we don't have." Elon offered to help, his years of engineering expertise finally finding an outlet. Together, they managed to get the arm back online, but not before losing nearly an hour of production. The delay rippled through the line, earning glares from workers further down the chain. As the day wound down, Elon couldn't shake the feeling of tension that hung over the factory. For all the innovation Tesla represented, it was clear that the people on the ground felt overlooked, their voices drowned out by the relentless drive for progress. The cracks were becoming impossible to ignore. But as Elon dug deeper into the factory's rhythms, he stumbled upon something even more unexpected. Moments of brilliance that could change everything. By his third day on the job, Elon had begun to adapt to the rhythm of the factory floor. The tasks no longer felt alien, though the strain was ever present. His fingers bore the calluses of repetition, and his back ached in ways he hadn't felt in years. Yet it wasn't the physical toll that weighed on him the most. It was the human toll. The break room that afternoon was quieter than usual. A heated argument had erupted earlier over shifts being reassigned without notice. Elon sat with Louise and a few others, listening as they vented their frustrations. "They keep saying we're part of this big mission," Louise said, gesturing vaguely toward the Tesla logo on the wall. "But it doesn't feel like it. It feels like we're just parts, replaceable." Another worker chimed in. "The worst part is they don't even listen. We've been telling them about that faulty lift for weeks. Do you think anyone upstairs cares?" Elon felt a pang of guilt. These weren't just employees, they were the backbone of Tesla, the ones who turned dreams into reality, and they were being pushed to the brink. Later that evening, another incident drove the point home. A worker named Tasha was injured when a piece of equipment jammed, sending a small metal shard slicing across her forearm. Supervisors rushed to assist, but the look on her face wasn't just one of pain, it was frustration. "I told them this thing was acting up," she said through gritted teeth as her arm was bandaged. "No one listens until it's too late." Elon's mind raced as he walked back to his station. He had designed Tesla to be the pinnacle of innovation, but here on the factory floor, it felt like the heart of the company was missing. Workers weren't just struggling against machines, they were struggling against a system that seemed to overlook their value. As the shift ended, Elon stayed behind, ostensibly to help clean up, but really to think. The issues were clear, but what could be done to fix them without disrupting the delicate balance of production? He had come here for answers, and now he was drowning in questions. Just when the problem seemed insurmountable, Elon began to notice something remarkable, a spark of ingenuity among the workers themselves. By the end of the week, Elon had earned the trust of his co-workers. He was no longer the new guy fumbling with bolts. He was Dan, someone who worked hard, listened, and lent a hand when it mattered. This camaraderie allowed him to witness something extraordinary, the ingenuity of the people who kept Tesla running, often in spite of the system. One evening, as the last shift prepared to clock out, Elon noticed a small group huddled near a malfunctioning station. The robotic welder had been acting up for weeks, its precision degrading, to the point where it was barely usable. Instead of waiting for a repair team, the workers had taken matters into their own hands. Louise, the young man Elon had saved earlier, led the charge with a mix of spare parts scavenged from other machines and a healthy dose of creativity. They managed to bypass the welder's faulty circuit board, the machine sputtering back to life, welding seams as neatly as it had on day one. "Not bad for a bunch of amateurs, huh?" Lewis said, grinning as he wiped grease from his hands. Elon couldn't hide his amazement. "How'd you figure that out?" Lewis shrugged. "You spend enough time around these machines, you start to see patterns. Management doesn't have time for this stuff, so we figure it out ourselves." The ingenuity didn't stop there. Over the next few days, Elon observed similar moments of brilliance. Workers redesigning tools to make their jobs easier, streamlining assembly sequences to save precious seconds, even reprogramming a robot's workflow to avoid downtime. These weren't just complaints or gripes. They were solutions born out of necessity. But the disconnect was glaring. These innovations rarely reached the ears of management. Supervisors were too focused on meeting quotas, and the workers didn't feel empowered to share their ideas beyond their immediate teams. The turning point came during an informal gathering in the break room. A group of employees had gathered to brainstorm solutions to recurring issues on the line. The conversation was animated, filled with laughter and heated debates, but beneath it was a clear sense of purpose. "We could probably shave 5 minutes off each shift if we adjusted the conveyor timing," one worker suggested. "Yeah, but who's going to listen?" another countered. "We've been through this before." Elon cleared his throat, speaking up for the first time. "What if someone did listen? What if you had a direct line to the top?" The room fell silent, the workers exchanging skeptical glances. "That's a nice thought, Dan," Louise said, "but that's not how it works here." Elon didn't argue, but the gears in his mind were already turning. He had seen enough. The workers weren't the problem, they were the solution. All they needed was a voice and a platform. It was time for Elon to reveal who he really was. The question wasn't if they would believe him, but how they would react to the truth, and what would happen next. The factory's morning meeting was routine, rows of workers standing shoulder to shoulder, supervisors delivering updates and instructions over the hum of machinery preparing to start. It was the perfect stage for what Elon had planned. He stood at the back of the room, still wearing his worker's uniform, his safety goggles perched on his head. Louise nudged him. "You good, Dan? You look nervous." Elon gave a tight smile. "Yeah, just thinking about something big." When the supervisors finished, he stepped forward, his heart pounding in a way it hadn't in years. "Before we get to work, I need to say something," he said, his voice cutting through the murmurs of the crowd, turning heads. "My name isn't Dan. My name is Elon Musk. I've been working alongside you for the past week to see what life is like on this floor, what you go through, what you face every day." For a moment, the room was silent. Then came the reactions, a mix of gasps, whispers, and disbelieving laughter. "No way," someone muttered. "Is this a joke?" But Elon wasn't joking. He removed his safety goggles, straightened his posture, and continued. "I came here because I needed to understand what's really happening in this factory, not from reports or meetings, but from you, because you're the ones who make Tesla what it is. And starting today, things are going to change." A hand shot up from the back of the room. "Like what?" a woman called out. "For starters," Elon said, "we're going to create a direct line of communication between the factory floor and the leadership team. Your ideas, your concerns, they need to be heard. And we'll fix the equipment issues you've been dealing with. No more shortcuts." The room erupted into applause, not the polite kind reserved for speeches, but genuine, unfiltered appreciation. For the first time, many of them felt seen. The days that followed Elon's reveal were nothing short of transformative. True to his word, he didn't just walk away after making promises. He stayed listening to workers, addressing their concerns, and setting change into motion. The first order of business was tackling safety issues. The malfunctioning lift that had injured Tasha was immediately repaired, and a safety audit team was deployed across the factory to identify other problem areas. Workers who had once resigned themselves to hazardous conditions now felt empowered to speak up. Elon also implemented a simple but revolutionary system, an open innovation forum. Workers could submit ideas directly to management, no red tape, no middlemen. Within days, the submissions flooded in. Louise's suggestion to adjust the conveyor belt timing was implemented, shaving precious minutes off the assembly process. Tasha proposed a redesign for a cumbersome tool, reducing worker strain and boosting efficiency. Ideas that had once died in the break room now had a direct path to the top. Morale on the factory floor began to shift. Employees who had once seen themselves as replaceable cogs in a massive machine now felt like vital contributors to Tesla's mission. The changes weren't just felt in the factory, they resonated throughout the company. For Elon, the experience left a profound mark. As he returned to his executive role, he carried the lessons of the factory with him. He spoke openly about his time undercover during a company-wide meeting, emphasizing the importance of humility and connection. "One week on the factory floor taught me more about leadership than years in the boardroom," he said. "Innovation doesn't just come from the top, it comes from every level, especially from those closest to the work. As leaders, our job isn't just to guide, it's to listen, to empower, and to adapt." The moral lesson wasn't lost on anyone. Leadership isn't about commanding from above. It's about understanding the people who make progress possible. Elon's undercover mission became a defining moment in Tesla's journey, a story that employees shared with pride and that inspired other companies to rethink their approach to leadership. As for the workers, they didn't forget the week when Dan joined their ranks. For many, it was a reminder that their voices mattered and that change was possible, even in a place as massive and complex as Tesla.